Okay, for this portion of the demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and place the composite in the tooth. You'll be using, hopefully, the actual bonding system, either SE bond or one of the universal bonding systems, either a 5th generation or a 7th generation. And so what I'm going to basically demonstrate is mainly just the placement of the composite. So I have a couple of instruments here that I want to show you. Remember, they're always called instruments, not tools. If you remember this is the PKT. It's actually PKT1. It's nice and thick. Here's the other end of that. Here's an IPC, interproximal carver. And then I also usually like to use a micro brush as well. And I have my Explorer here as well. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the composite compule on Mr. Coffee here to warm up the composite. This is 100% optional, but I like to use it for a few seconds to heat up the composite. It increases the flowability and it decreases the viscosity. And remember, viscosity is the resistance to flow, so it decreases the resistance to flow. Now, I asked around, and since I don't have my composite gun, I'm going to have to do this kind of in a not a very good manner, but essentially you place this compule in your composite gun, and then you can directly extrude it onto the tooth. And I'm going to extrude a fairly good amount, and then if you have clean gloves on, then you can roll it up into a ball, place it on the end of an instrument as such, and then take it to the tooth. So, see if I can zoom in a bit more. So when you place it onto the tooth, you want to make sure to pack it down so there's no voids on the bottom. Go ahead and turn the slide off. Hopefully we can still see fairly well. Yeah, I just don't want the composite to cure prematurely. So we pack it down, and we're probably going to do 2 increments here. A bottom increment just to make sure that it's packed all the way, and then a top increment to finish out the anatomy. So I'm using that PLG that we used before, and I'm just making sure that the composite is properly condensed into the cavity preparation. You can come laterally as well to make sure that it's adapted to the sides, so downwards and laterally. And I'm using a lot of nice light pressures just to make sure that I have a nice flat incremental layer here. So it's pretty well condensed. You can use the side of this instrument to clean up any flash that happens to be on the outer portion before we light cure. And I have a very inexpensive curing light that I got off of Amazon. So you want to put this right up against the, and it's blinking at me because it has low battery, but you want to put it right up against the tooth as close as you can. Okay, and do a normal cure time, 40 seconds. Go back to the composite heater. Composite. Extrude some more composite into the cavity preparation. This is whenever I like to start getting artsy. So what you can do is you can use the interproximal carver to make sure to tamp it up against the sides as such. So right now I'm doing the buckle. And you kind of want to have the instrument half on the tooth and half on where the filling is in order to use the tooth as a guide. If you have excess, kind of just peel it off a little bit like that by turning the IPC on its side. And either remove completely, or you can place it into another part of the restoration that's lacking. And go ahead and do a little bit on the lingual. It's important, once again, to have a good finger rest. You can go back to the PKT. It's just like sculpting with wax, but if the wax but the wax stays unset. And once again, using the tooth as a guide for my PKT, coming from a sideways motion here, taking off the excess uncured composite, making an indentation there for the mesial pit, coming back to the lingual, same thing. Taking off the excess there a little bit. Coming around to the distal here. You can tamp into place too with the nice blunted end of the PKT. And then before you cure, you can come back in with the Explorer. It's kind of a nice way of doing things. And you can make your grooves. I'll make a little groove here on that buckle part. Tease off the excess. Come up for a secondary groove. Turn the Explorer over. Get that secondary groove there. Using the Explorer to wipe off excess by keeping it half on the tooth, half in the filling. back in with the PLG. I'm going to tamp up to get it to meet the cavity surface margin a little bit here. It was a little ditched. And then you can also use the PLG or a condenser very nicely to make sure it's nice and adapted to the cavity surface margin. And go ahead and cure again. Hopefully the battery doesn't run out. And you want to make sure that if you're doing a larger class 1, instead of having it just on one part of the tooth or in the middle, kind of move it back and forth for that full 40 seconds. Okay, and there's our unfinished and unpolished restoration. So to do the finishing, I usually like to go in with a 7404 or a H274UF. 7404 is the carbide finishing burr. It's a football shape, or really an egg shape, but who really cares? It's this thing. Okay. And when you go in for finishing, you want to keep the burr angulated the same as the cavity surface margin. So, for example, like this, and you want to keep the point of the burr you don't want to go any further than the center of the pit, or the center of the groove that you're working on. So for example, we come in here, and I would do this maybe at 20,000 RPM on the electric hand piece. Following the contour of the tooth. And then switching around to where it's angulated on the buckle now. Paintbrush strokes. And I'll just demonstrate the other. This is the white stripe burr that you have. It's this one here. Remember, half on the tooth, half on the filling. something a little bit like that. And then I don't have anything for polishing with me, but you can use the composite polishing cup or one of these. I like using this. You can also buy, and I didn't think I had one in this bird block, you can buy these at Dental Supply. They're wonderful. These are called white stone points. That's this thing right here. These work wonders. It almost does the polishing for you, but use it in the same manner that you would any other finishing burr. Has a nice fine point. So you can define your grooves really well with something like this. And then if you have your slow speed set up, or your latch angle attachment on your motor, which I have to go in and actually remove the high-speed handpiece itself and replace the slow speed. So we can actually show you a little bit on the polishing, just a little bit here. Go in here, and you'd ideally want to do this with water to avoid burning the composite, so you can put more water in the little reservoirs down at the bottom. Oop, got a man down. Okay. So something like that's okay at first. Brush this off. And then we can go to the Jiffy brush. Jiffy brush comes in two varieties. Comes in a point and a cup. This is the cup. And this one's a little bit blunted, but here's an example of the point. It usually tapers to a nice fine point, which is perfect for getting into grooves, but I'll demonstrate with the cup variety first. Nice firm pressure. Moving the burr. And there you have it. Now, there's a little bit of white stuff stuck in there. And then this groove right there. So you'll want to you can take a Profi cup and put some pumice in it, or some polishing paste in it, and clean everything up, or use alcohol on a little brush. And to check the restoration, what you'll want to do is you want to come in here and move the Explorer. I'm going to zoom in for this. You want to move the Explorer from tooth to restoration in a manner like this. And if you can feel any catching on the cavity surface margin, then your filling is over bulked in that area, or under bulked too. And you'll want to go back and fix it with the finishing burr, and then repolish that area as well. This is pretty smooth. You can hear, be able to hear clicking, and or it'll like, if I really press hard, you know, it'll stop, it'll catch. It's called a catch. It does like that. Really pressing hard there, but a nice smooth light touch, you know, we'll be able to discern whether or not your margins are nice and adapted. You can also go in with a Hollenbeck carver, you know, and if there's anything like maybe right there, you can go in. If you don't want to touch the tooth anymore, you can go in and do it from there.
How's it going?
Doing all right. Okay, hope this helped.